One of the things we learned about the political process is that if you showed up after the building closed and made appointments with legislators and brought a halfway decent bottle of California's finest produced beverage, wine, you could engage in a conversation, which we had done a few times. And as luck would have it, we had made enough contacts that we were actually able to get in to see John Burton, the head of the Senate pro tem in the California Senate, who's a legendary legislator and personality in San Francisco. Long-standing political family, the Burtons. So we were sheepish to go in there. We obviously did bring a bottle of wine with us. We did go in there, and Senator Burton is as close to a Sinatra Rat Pack figure in politics as you would get. We walked in there. His bookcase that was prominent when you walked in had, I think, every great remnant from his political career from the Summer of Love on out. So I found that to be a living museum. Senator Burton looked at us and he said, "You two look normal. Why do I keep hearing that you're the devil in disguise?" And we said, "Well, we don't know why, but we're happy to try to talk you out of that perception." To which Reed began to describe, his work in Silicon Valley. He hadn't proposed his Netflix idea at that time, so he was meeting Senator Burton as, the entrepreneur who had sold pure software for a fair amount of money and was supporting Democrats. And then he looked at me and he said, "You're like a school district superintendent. You can't be that crazy." And I said, "No." And I said, "San Carlos is anything but a crazy place, but it cares a lot about its kids and cares a lot about innovation." And we are walking out the door about an hour later after what we thought was a pretty successful meeting. One, he didn't throw us out, and two, he didn't lace us with his legendary profanity that we hear occasionally happens with Senator Burton. On the way out, he said, "Hey, is that Carlos Club still in San Carlos?" And San Carlos doesn't have all that many bar nightclubs. The Carlos Club is fairly legendary. It's across the street from the Caltrain station and is the only karaoke place in town at that time. So, of course, I said it was, and he said, my brothers and I would stop by the Carlos Club on our way back from swimming at some quarry down in San Jose, and it was a great spot. And of course, I probably was underage, but that didn't matter in the Carlos Club. And he said, "If it's still around, if they think it's a good idea, I might think it's a good idea as well." So we immediately jumped back in the car and headed for the Carlos Club. We got back about 2 hours later and walked into the Carlos Club, which at the time was family owned, and said, "Hey, I knew some of the patrons of that club. I think they were probably parents of kids in our schools, and talked to them and said, if I brought you a letter that said what we were doing is a pretty good idea, would you all be willing to sign it and we could send it to Senator Burton?" And of course, they all said they would. Early the next week, I brought back a letter that anyone in the bar, including the owner, signed, and we sent it to Senator Burton. And I hope he still has the letter, because whatever it took, he was more than on our side in this effort.